Hi, this is Elwin Robinson, founder of Lionheart Herbs, here right now to talk to you about barley or wheatgrass juice powder. And I've really put them both together, barley grass and wheatgrass juice powder, because they're both very similar in terms of their effects and even their nutritional profile. So what are the key benefits of having any kind really of barley grass or wheatgrass? Let's cover that first. So it's alkalising, right? Most of us have too much acidity built up in our body, and most of us are depleted of alkaline reserves to help buffer or neutralise that and transport it safely out in the body. From my perspective, barley grass or wheatgrass is the best food-sourced supplement to deal with that, right? Incredibly powerful. So if you prefer something natural rather than something chemical, this is it. This is incredibly effective, and you can measure that when you use pH test strips. Mineralising, right? Most of us in the modern age are very depleted in minerals. First of all, because our digestion isn't great. Often that relates to an excess of stress. And also because the food that we eat is just more depleted of minerals than ever before. And this has been going on not just in the last few years, but in fact for the last few decades, and even for the last couple of centuries. As the agricultural revolutions moved in, our food is being made more and more with a tiny, tiny amount of nutrients, just free usually, NPK, whereas we actually need dozens of minerals, right? In fact, 92, all the minerals, and we're only getting 3 of them. So barley grass, wheatgrass has got a great selection of over 70 trace minerals. It's high in protein, right? High in good quality protein. In fact, the Lionheart Herbs wheatgrass or barley grass powder, juice powder, is 38% protein, so it's really high, higher than steak, higher than chicken, anything like that. Really high in antioxidants, right? So especially superoxide dismutase and the various carotenoids like alpha carotenes, beta carotenoids, which your body can make vitamin A out of, okay? So antioxidants are to help to prevent free radical damage, which basically means help to prevent premature aging. And most of us are aging prematurely without realizing it. It's a great alternative for greens, right? So let's say that you're really not of the mind to enjoy plowing through large amounts of kale or spinach or collards or whatever it is, the kind of greens that maybe you think of when you think of greens, and you think, wow, that's quite a lot, I don't really want to eat that. Just like a teaspoon of this wheat or barley grass juice powder particularly, it's incredibly easy to drink. It actually tastes, well, pretty much not of anything. If you add a little bit of lemon juice to it, all you taste really is the lemon. And yet it's so powerful that it's actually got a lot more nutritional content, a lot more greenness, for want of a better word, including chlorophyll, right, which is greenness, than several kilos of the average green vegetable. So incredibly powerful source of that. It's also high in vitamin C, vitamin E, and again the various carotenoids which often make up vitamin A. Now let's talk about the Lionheart Herbs barley and wheatgrass juice powder. So first of all, just want to point out that what Lionheart Herbs brand has is juice powder. Most barley grass powders you get are exactly that. It's where you, so what we're talking about here with barley or wheat, right? They're generally, we think of those as grains, right? So if you sprout those grains, you get some green grass grow out of that, right? That's the beginning of a young plant. And so what most barley grass or wheatgrass products are basically that grass cut down, dried and powdered. Now the challenge with that is that you've got a lot of fairly undigestible fibre, right, cellulose that your body's then still going to churn through, and you're paying for that cellulose, right, so which is really not very beneficial for you, and you're not getting the same level of condensed nutrition that you would otherwise be getting, right? So and lastly, I guess also it's not particularly palatable, right? It's much more enjoyable to have the juice powder, because what the juice powder is it's basically that same grass that's then cut down, but rather than dried, it's actually juiced, right? So it's juiced, so all the fibre is removed and all that's left is the juice. And then the water is evaporated off that juice, and then all you're left with is that pure powder, right? Which is just so much better, so much higher quality. So there's a few companies that do juice powder. What's the Lionheart Herbs different? So it's much more potent, right? This is the most potent barley grass juice powder, wheatgrass juice powder I've ever come across. There's much less fibre, right? It's top quality young grasses, okay? So our grasses are between 10 to 14 days when the plant is still in the peak of its vitality, okay? let's look at some nutritional facts. 9% potassium, right? About 8.88 grams per 100 grams. That's huge, right? And this is really important because most of us are deficient in potassium, right? Most of us, especially if we eat a modern diet, too much sodium, not enough potassium, right? Now this is because our body has actually evolved over hundreds of thousands of years of evolution to hold on to sodium because it was rare, and to easily excrete potassium because it was so abundant. But of course it was abundant with our modern diet where we used to eat green leaves and fruits all day. But we don't do that anymore. Most of us don't anyway. So for most of us, we're very, very lacking in good quality food-based potassium, and so it's great to have such a high source. Your body also needs potassium to transport acids out of the body, by the way, so it supports the alkalising thing. Calcium as well, right? It's another electrolyte like potassium. 1% calcium, so 1 gram or 1,000 milligrams per 100 grams, so a very decent amount of calcium as well. Calcium, of course, is important for the muscles, strong bones, strong teeth, all that kind of thing. Chlorophyll, 1.5%, greenness, right? This is 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, depending on what we're talking about, more than the average green vegetable. Just incredibly green, right? Incredibly full of that plant blood, that plant vitality. And like I mentioned before, 38% protein, so a really high protein amount as well. So what I love to do with barley or wheatgrass juice powder is just have some in my water throughout the day. In fact, I've just had some before I filmed this. I pour myself a pint of water, nice fresh spring water if at all possible, and then put in a teaspoon, often 2 teaspoons of the barley grass juice powder, stir it up. Sometimes I add a little bit of lemon juice in there, and if the weather's hot I might put a little bit of salt in there as well, just a little bit, and those actually improve the flavour as well, although it's just fine on its own, it's great on its own. And I drink that down and that feels really refreshing. And that's great as well if I'm working hard, because that really helps to alkalise me. Now you can have that at any time, you can have that first thing in the morning as well, you can have it at the end of the day, but I find it just a great thing to have really throughout the day. Whenever I need a little dose of energy, whenever I need a little boost, then it's just a great way to get it.